Cheryl!
So, we're back on track. Boy, oh boy. Dead Space 2. What a game! I like Dead Space just fine, but Jesus Christ, this game improves upon it in literally every way. I can't think of a part that didn't get better. So let's not waste time here. Let's delve right into it. What's really weird to me is I actually thought I liked the first one more a little while there, and honestly, I don't know why. I'll blame the time in between playing these games. Dead Space 2 is clearly the better game. Having played this game again just to capture footage, I was silly for thinking otherwise. God damn, this game is good. Dead Space 2 was released January 25th, 2011 for the PC, PS3, and 360. Developed and produced by the same people. Now with this game, the phrase, "if it's not broke, don't fix it," doesn't mean shit. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the first game in terms of gameplay, but god damn, they tweaked it to an even higher level of fun and addictiveness. This is a perfect example of giving your audience stuff they didn't even know they wanted. I would have never even thought the small changes they made would have even been something I wanted. The gameplay is like a dream. Everything feels so perfect. The aiming is even tighter, the movement feels more fluid, and the combat is more balanced and cohesive. The melee is quicker and more effective too. I still never use it for combat 90% of the time, but it has more of a purpose. No more super slow, telegraphed stomps and punches, especially the stomping. Last time Isaac would stomp only once and do it slow as shit. Now he's fucking stomping like a madman.
Hey, stop!
The gameplay is revamped to the max. It is so good. The only limiting factor is your own ability. Everything is super balanced in terms of combat. They even give an option of a fixed center crosshair versus the last laser-like one.
Tactical dismembering action.
Not only is the combat brought even more to the front, it's scarier than the first somehow. Last time I griped about there only being two necessary weapons, the line gun and the plasma cutter. The plasma cutter is still a must, but the weapons this time are so much more useful. I didn't even touch the plasma rifle in the last game, but now I'm using it all the fucking time. I was constantly switching out weapons to accommodate my situation. The dumb saw blade is back. Still dumb. Another mechanic that changed everything was actually making the kinesis useful. I almost never used the kinesis outside of the few puzzles in the first game. This time, some fucking genius had the idea of making the kinesis good for killing shit. Ammo is still pretty limited on harder difficulties, so you have to resort to your surroundings. Now you can use kinesis to launch dead necromorphs' blades, metal rods, and all kinds of pointy things at the fuckers. This creates really fast-paced battles that require you to be on your game. This shit really gets your adrenaline pumping. The keyword with this game is balance. Nothing feels out of proportion. The combat doesn't feel one-sided. I'm not outright underpowered, but I'm not effortlessly destroying shit. With finite ammo, quick thinking, stasis, and kinesis all blending together to create some extremely fun and intense gameplay. As for the difficulty curve, it's really solid. The game starts out really chill, but once you start getting introduced to all the mechanics and they all start, throwing everything you all at once, it gets really crazy towards the end. You have to be on the top of your game. The difficulties are also really well done. Not only do the enemies have more hit points, they also behave differently depending on your difficulty. And this is something that always impresses me. Playing on Zealot difficulty really makes the enemies fucking super aggressive. It's insane. They're fucking relentless. Look at this. I'm getting fucking raped. Speaking of the enemies, let's touch on them really quick. As I said in the previous video, the enemies are really well designed, but in the first game it suffered from too few enemies. Well, they did mostly correct this in Dead Space 2. They added 4 new common enemy types. You get the dinosaur from Dino Crisis 3, a puke monster, little kids, and some exploding babies. I really like the stalkers. The first encounter with them is super fucking tense. like a waiting game from hell. The worst addition is the fucking puke monster. It's just puke, this is dumb, and they run like such sissies. That looks hilarious. I bet his name was Percy before he died. The new monsters are a nice addition and help keep shit refreshing. Almost all the old enemies make their return looking just swell. They added a lot more variants of the same old necromorphs to help keep it interesting too. They still resort to making enemies just black, which again is just fucking dumb. I'm glad they added new enemies, but I wish they'd added even more. I'm not sure why they couldn't think of more interesting enemies. Maybe one that looks like Goro would have been cool. Nevertheless, shit is still good. One really cool monster was this guy right here. This design is really good, and one of the scariest ones of the series. The enemies overall are still really fucking metal. They added some new death scenes that were pretty awesome too. Again, Isaac just appears too fragile. Just falls apart like he's made of paper mache. They did improve the blood, but I think the big problem is it just doesn't cover the surroundings. It looks off.
Nitpicking aside, let's talk about the smartest decisions they made. The combat improvements are fucking stellar, but what I think really sets it apart from the first game is the narrative. They gave Isaac a voice.
This was a risky move, and it totally paid off. Much like Dino Crisis 2, they pulled a complete 180. They went from a guy that literally never spoke to a guy that won't shut the fuck up. Also, he swears like a motherfucker.
The one's shooting at you.
Fuck.
Dana, your fucking route didn't work. Dana? Damn it. Dana?
I can relate. This drives the story forward so much better. The first game, which I usually play in like an hour or two at a time, begins to bore me rather quickly. When all you're doing is trekking to and fro at the whim of people I don't care about because they're lazy, scared asshole, just drones in the worst way. Isaac shows emotion and his face all the time. Instead of just some blank slate in the mask, now we have a face to associate with this guy that's getting fucking ripped to shreds. Now you can actually empathize with the shit happening to and around him. The story is nothing special, but how it's told is far more gripping. We'll get to the story in just a moment, but I just want to finish up on the importance of giving us an actual character. In the first game, I don't think anyone gave a single damn about anyone, but this time around we have people to connect with. The main story, just like last time, isn't all that special. From the start of the game, Isaac has been institutionalized for his mental sickness. No time wasted, for the game just shows how over the top it is by some guy's face falling off right in front of the screen. It's fucking awesome. A religious cult leader leads you astray with promises of a cure for the debilitating hallucinations of Nicole. Like the cult leader she is, she lied in order to further her goals, but yeah, that doesn't pan out too well for suck it, nerd. During this whole time, you're being tracked by EarthGov. Turns out, while Isaac was lost in his psychosis, they used this crazy information locked away in his brain to build these gigantic markers in order to harness its power. Fight the power! Isaac rejoins with a fellow crazy guy named Strauss who says he can help Isaac destroy this big-ass marker. Throughout the game, Isaac and Strauss's hallucinations become worse, more so for Strauss. You encounter a woman named Ellie who aids you in your goal. Strauss goes crazy, and you stab him in his fucking head with a screwdriver. Isaac pulls a heroic maneuver, sending Ellie away on the ship. The guy in charge, Tideman, has been there every step of the way trying to prevent you from destroying the marker, but yeah, he's not too good at that. You destroy the marker, Ellie comes back for you, and it turns out that was only one of many markers. Dang. The main story is forgettable, but the best part of the last game is brought much closer to the forefront. The psychotic episodes of Isaac are explored much more, and damn, they are awesome. I cared more about Isaac and his resolve with Nicole more than I even thought about the main story. These encounters with Nicole are far more interesting and even touching at times. That moment where Isaac comes to terms with his inner demons honestly was pretty effective. I didn't get all worked up.
Because you are my everything. And if I let you go, I've got nothing left.
But damn if it didn't make me feel pretty sad. Disappointingly though, the final boss is horrible. I really liked the final boss in the first game, but here it just sucks. So after beating the game, you unlock some new suits, which, can I say something about the suits? Why does the mask come off at the worst times? That's horrible. That shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't come off when you're getting in danger. That's stupid. New Game Plus in Hardcore mode. This game is far more replayable since it's more diverse and captivating. As for the Hardcore mode, it's just an even harder difficulty in which you can only save 3 times. Yeah,
No fucking thanks. I don't need that kind of frustration in my life. It's not like the game sucks your dick after beating it on this difficulty. There's no real prize for beating it either, except for big dick points, and I've got plenty of those.
You wanna see how big my dick is? It's about that big.
There is something I totally forgot to mention the first time around. You do have to manually save your progress. There are checkpoints though, so what? I'm not bashing it, it's just like, weird. As for ports, again, nothing special, all are good. Even the PC port, despite being capped at 30 frames a second by default, is super good and you can easily fix that. You can't go wrong with any of them. In order, it would be PC, 360, and PS3.
So I know this was a relatively short video, but that's because the game's just excellent. I only have nitpicks to say about the game. It's pretty much Resident Evil 4, but in space. And yes, I'm aware I reference Resident Evil 4 a lot. Deal with it. Honestly, you could skip right past the first game. I'm not saying you should, but you totally can with no ill effect. Dead Space 2, on the other hand, I don't recommend you skip. The game is fun as hell, with better combat, a good story, and actual characters. It's one of the best of its kind. So, until next time, we get to a 360 launch game. That's right. That game where you beat dudes in the face with a fucking pipe!